Welcome back to the Band Guide. I'm your band guy, Colin, and today I want to share with you 4 fun delay tricks that can just add a little bit more interest and just fun to the mixing process. So let's get straight into it with the first one, which I like to call the rolling guitar delay. So this is really great, particularly on really straight rhythmic guitar parts like this one we have here. Check this out in solo. Nothing wrong, just a nice, clean, straight palm mute guitar part. If we listen to it in the context of the song. Very straightforward, totally does the job, but I felt like it was just missing a little bit of energy. So I added a pedal board here and used a delay to create what I'm calling the rolling guitar delay, and it just helps fill in those little gaps. So let's listen to it in solo here now with that delay on. Take that away. It doesn't ruin the main part, but it just fills in those little gaps in a way that reverb or something doesn't, right? All right, let's listen to it really quickly in the context, and I'll have it on at first and then I'll take it off. And notice when I take it off how everything just starts to feel super straight.
Just to get out, just to get out of the thick of it. And now you're saying you're proud, yeah, you're saying you're proud. We're all getting sick of it, yeah.
Subtle, but it definitely helps just fill in those little spaces, right? Okay, so here we're doing it with the pedal board. This is great, and you can use a pedal board on anything. This is a trick that you could use on all sorts of other sources as well, and you can use the pedal board on vocals, drums, don't ever forget that. But if you wanted to do something a little bit different, you can also set this up with just a straight up tape delay. So here I just have the normal tape delay. If we put this on, you'll hear it's a little bit more obvious. This is just a dotted 8th note, 30% mix. Right? Very straightforward, but you could, tailor down the high cut to make it a little less obvious. Right? So all sorts of tools you can use to do this. By the way, the settings on the pedal board, in case you want to do something similar, we have a dotted 8th note in my time here. We have the feedback and mix just set to where it was working with the guitar part, and then I just dialed in the tone to get it to work. So you could do something similar. This dotted 8th note was definitely working for this part that's so straight, but you'll want to find what works in your song. Okay, the second fun delay trick is the Haas effect. The Haas effect functionally just is that if you take a source and you delay one ear just a little bit from the other ear, you'll still perceive it as one source, but you'll feel and perceive more width to it. So there's all sorts of ways you can use this on percussion, on acoustic guitars, things like that, where they're not super prominent, but you just want them to have more width and kind of be perceived as one thing, but wider. Here I'm doing it with a synth bass. So in this song we have 2 bass tracks. We have an electric bass track and then a synth bass track. And I wanted my electric bass track to be really up the middle and then my synth bass to kind of fill in around it in the mix. And so I used the Haas effect here with just a basic sample delay and set the right ear delayed from the left ear. And as soon as I engage this, you'll notice that the synth gets more obvious and just gets wider relative to the electric bass. Check this out. So this is off to start. I add it on. Turn it off. Kind of disappears, right? So it's subtle. If you hear it in solo, it's really obvious. So turning this off here. Add it on. Right? And it just moves it out of the center a little bit so that that electric bass can really fill that space. Okay, so the Haas effect, definitely try this out. It can be really, really useful on all sorts of things. But let's go ahead and get into trick number 3, a delay that I call the 3D delay. Okay, so we're in another song here, and we are in Logic, but this works in Logic or GarageBand. Wherever it is you're working, you can do either of these as long as you have a stereo delay plugin, which both do. So this trick is particularly cool on something that's a single source that you want to have more movement around and want it to almost sound like more than one recording, if you will. So, for example, here we have an acoustic guitar that's just doing some slow strums. Nothing wrong with this, but nothing to write home about. If we listen to it in the context of the mix, it sounds like just that.
Said to get my things, we gotta go right now. while it's still around.
And I like this, but I feel like it could have a little bit more movement and also a little bit more like just space in the stereo mix. And I think this song could stand to have a little bit more rhythm in those in-between moments. So we could just throw just the standard stereo delay on it like this, which is just the preset settings. It's a 30% mix, a quarter note on the left, an eighth note on the right. And that would sound something like this.
Said to get my things, we gotta go right now.
If you listen to it in solo. But that just sounds like a guitar with delay on it. Nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of times where that's what it calls for. But in this case, I want to get really creative with it. So here I'm using a stereo delay again, but I've set it a little bit differently. So I've set it with a quarter note on the left, but then a dotted quarter note on the right. And where it gets really interesting is how I'm playing with the mix and the feedback on the sides, and then a little bit about these high cuts. So I am cutting out some of the high frequency here, but the big thing is that I'm using a really high mix on the right ear and a really low mix on the left ear, so that the left ear is almost just primarily the main signal, and then the right ear is almost all this delayed signal, this dotted quarter note delayed signal, and then that one repeats a lot, and the one on the left repeats a lot as well, but a little bit less. So listen to what this is doing to this acoustic now. So off, and then I'll put it on. And in the context of this song,
said to get my things, we gotta go right now, while it's still around, before they tear it down, like pilgrims pass.
right? It just feels a little bit more interesting and more rhythmic. And you could also do something to tighten it up here. This is the direction mixer in Logic. We have it in GarageBand as well. And this has a spread function that can make it a little bit narrower. So if you don't want it far panned left and right, you can use this to tighten it up a little bit. If you listen to this in solo here, this is off. And then this is on. You get some width and some extra rhythm, but it's not as wide as without it on. So just a little pro tip here. Let's actually quickly look at this on one other example just so you can hear it in a different context. All right, this is the song Less Panic, More Disco by one of the band guide students, Marco Condic. Shout out Marco Condic. Thank you for letting me use this. This is a song I mixed for him last year. It's just a super fun jam. And this song has a similar kind of guitar that I just wanted to have more movement with. So this guitar on its own without this stereo delay, this 3D delay, sounds like this. Really cool tone. But I just wanted a little bit more movement. I wanted to have it dance around in the song a little bit. So we came up with this. Similar settings here. Quarter note on the left, dotted eighth note on the right, low mix on the left, high mix on the right. And it just gives it a really cool kind of slappy sound, and it makes it feel like it's in a space. You're adding space around it at the same time, and in the context of the mix.
I need less panic, more disco at home, 'cause it's getting too loud. The voices in my head, they are gaining too much ground.
Right? Very cool. Okay, and obviously this is a kind of similar guitar part, but I've used this on all sorts of things. I've done this on drums, so definitely play around with it. That is the 3D delay. And the last, fourth, and final fun trick you can do with delay that I want to share with you today is snare delay. Let's check it out. All right, we're back in the song we were in just a second ago, and in this song, when we get to the bridge, we want this big, distant drum sound. So let's listen to just a little bit of this without the snare delay on. Check this out.
They're calling your name. You never. They're calling your name. You never.
Nothing wrong with it. The drum sound is fine. I wanted it to be distant, and I think it sounds somewhat distant. But there's just something not quite right about it. And this is probably the first song I ever played around with a delay on a snare drum, but this is what really puts it over the top. So here we just have a standard tape delay. This is in Logic, but it's the same in GarageBand. And here I've just set an eighth note delay, and I've set the wet output fairly high. So listen to this drum sound now with this snare delay on. Take it off. right? And in the context of the song here,
They're calling your name. You never. They're calling your
take it off,
name.
back on,
Never.
right? Makes a pretty big difference. It just adds a lot more space. So don't only think of reverb as a tool in your tool belt for making something sound really far away. Sometimes delay is actually the right thing for that. Okay, so that was 4 fun tricks you can do with reverb. What I'd like you to think about with this is just how can you have fun? Mixing is supposed to be fun, so find things that just bring you a little bit of joy, make you smile, make you laugh a little bit when you're working on it. And all 4 of these for me, when I put them on, it was just like, yep, that's exactly what I was looking for. Made me smile a little bit. So look for little things like that that you can do in your music. If you have any delay tricks that have been really helpful to you or that you just think are really fun, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. I'm always looking for new ideas. And before you go, if you've been struggling with mixing, I would love to give you something to help with that. If you struggle putting together a professional sounding mix, whether you're in GarageBand or Logic or anywhere else, there's really only 6 steps that you need to be doing. And I put together a 6-step checklist that just walks through those 6 steps that all professional mixes have and how you can do them wherever it is that you're making music, GarageBand, Logic, wherever you are mixing. It's really going to help you out. It's already helped out thousands of students, so definitely check it out. There's a link in the description below where you can pick it up completely free. Okay, that's it for this week. If this video was helpful, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next week with another video.
One thing at a time.